The American Civil War was the bloodiest war that has ever occurred on the American soil. Not only did this war change the number of the American population at the time, but it is arguably the most important war in the history of the United States. The war helped change the way of life, administrative structure, and destiny of the United States. If this war was important, then why did it occur? I will now state the cause of the American Civil War. The issue of slavery between the North and the South was the cause of the American Civil War. There were many events that occurred before the Civil War that over time built tension upon the topic of slavery. The topic of slavery arose because the Americans had the belief of manifest destiny and they were obtaining new land which had to be declared as a free or slave state. In 1820, the Missouri Compromise was executed. Missouri was accepted as a state. The debate was whether or not Missouri would become a slave state. The North and South came to an agreement. Missouri would become a slave state and the North can receive Maine as a free state. This compromise helped ease tensions early on about the conflict of slavery. Then the Mexican-American War occurred. In the end, the United States seized California and New Mexico in 1848 with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. This led to disputes about what would become of the new land. The Compromise of 1850 helped settle this dispute. One of the last events that built tension between the North and the South that led to the Civil War was the Kansas-Nebraska Act. This allowed the people of Kansas and Nebraska to choose whether they would want to be a free or slave state. This belief was called popular sovereignty. The newfound land that was acquired by the Americans caused commotion and problems because the North and the South wanted to put their own stamp on the newfound land. The Republican Party dedicated itself to blocking the expansion of the peculiar institution, and many of its leaders had publicly avowed their desire to see slavery abolished. Southern states had maintained that if a member of the Republican Party were elected president, they would succeed. When the voters chose a Republican candidate, Abraham Lincoln, in 1860, 7 states voted to leave the Union and began to form a Southern Confederacy. The South formed a new government, the Confederate States of America, to protect their state rights that allowed slavery. Abraham Lincoln responded to the Confederates by emphasizing the sovereignty of people, not states. President Lincoln wasn't trying to abolish the states' rights of the Confederates. During the beginning of Lincoln's presidency, Lincoln allowed supplies to be sent to Fort Sumter. The new Confederate government seized this opportunity to interpret this act as an act of war. On April 12, 1861, Fort Sumter was attacked by Confederate forces and the Civil War began. The American Civil War began due to the issue of slavery.